My brother asked the funeral director to remove me from my father's service. He did it softly, with one hand resting on my shoulder, like he was comforting me instead of erasing me. "Rachel," Victor whispered, low enough that the people in the front pews could pretend they were not listening. "This is not the place." I looked at his hand first, not his face, his hand. It was clean, manicured, heavy with our father's old signet ring, the one Dad used to wear only on Sundays and tax appointments, and days when he wanted people to remember the Morgan name still meant something in Briar Glen. Victor had started wearing it before the obituary even ran. "My name is Rachel Morgan. I am 34 years old. I am a forensic accountant, which means I make my living finding the places where numbers stop telling the truth." And on the morning of my father's funeral, every hidden thing in my family was standing in that church wearing black. Behind Victor, my stepmother Elaine stood beside the closed casket in a wool dress that fit her like grief had been tailored. One tissue trembled in her fingers. Her eyes were dry. The church smelled like lilies, old carpet, and winter coats damp from melting snow. The stained glass cast pale red and blue shapes across my father's casket, across the brass handles, across the framed photograph where he was smiling in front of the lake house I had not been invited to visit in 8 years. "You lost the right to stand here a long time ago," Victor said. No one gasped. That was the strange part. No one looked shocked. They looked relieved, as if someone had finally said the sentence everyone had rehearsed in private. For years, the family story was simple. Victor stayed, Rachel left. Victor helped Dad run Morgan Timber and Supply. Rachel moved 2 hours away to Indianapolis and cared more about audits and office towers than family. Victor was loyal, Rachel was difficult. Victor was the son who understood duty. Rachel was the daughter who broke her father's heart. It was a clean story. People liked it because it required no work from them. The truth was messier. I left because my father asked me to. 8 years earlier, Dad came to my apartment on a rainy Thursday, holding a cardboard box of old bank statements. He did not call first. He just appeared in the lobby, looking smaller than I remembered. Not weak, but compressed, like something in the house had been slowly folding him inward. "I need you to look at these," he said. For 3 nights we sat at my kitchen table, with coffee going cold between us. I found vendor payments duplicated, company credit cards used for personal expenses, checks written to shell contractors that did not exist in state records. Nothing enormous by itself. That was the cleverness of it. 1,000 here, 4,000 there. Just enough to look like carelessness unless someone patient followed the trail. Every trail bent toward Victor. When I told Dad, he closed his eyes. He did not defend him. That hurt more than if he had. "He's been angry for a long time," Dad said. "Anger does not make invoices," I told him. 3 weeks later, Elaine called me screaming that I had poisoned my father against his own son. Victor got on the phone after her, calm as a banker. "You come near this family business again," he said, "and I will make sure everyone knows why Dad really sent you away." Then Dad stopped answering my calls. Not all at once. At first, he missed one call and sent a text later. Then the texts got shorter. Then Elaine began answering his phone with a gentle sadness that made me sound unreasonable for calling. "He's resting, Rachel. He's overwhelmed, Rachel. You know how upset he gets after talking to you." By the 2nd year, my birthday cards came back unopened. By the 4th, people in Briar Glen were saying I broke my father's heart. By the 8th, Victor was wearing Dad's ring at his funeral and asking strangers to remove me from the church. The funeral director, Mr. Haskins, would not meet my eyes. "Miss Morgan," he said quietly, "perhaps we could step into the vestibule. There are moments when your body wants to make a scene because it understands before your mind does that something sacred is being stolen." My hands wanted to shove Victor away. My voice wanted to rise. My grief wanted witnesses. but I had spent too many years auditing men who smiled while stealing pensions from people who trusted them. I knew the cost of reacting exactly when dishonest people wanted you to react. So I nodded. Victor's mouth twitched. It was small, almost nothing, but I saw it. I walked down the aisle alone. Outside the sanctuary, the vestibule was colder. Snow tapped lightly against the glass doors. "Did my father leave instructions?" I asked Mr. Haskins. His face changed. "About me not attending," I said. He swallowed. "Your brother said the immediate family thought it best." "The immediate family," I repeated. Before he could answer, Victor stepped out of the sanctuary. "You should go," he said. I looked at him for a long moment. "When did he die?" Victor blinked. "What?" "Dad, what time did he die?" Elaine had called me at 6:40 that morning, her voice soft and formal. Thomas passed peacefully in his sleep. "The service is Saturday. We understand if it is too difficult for you to come, but the obituary said he had died Tuesday, 4 days earlier. 4 days where my father had been dead and no one told me. 4 days where arrangements were made, papers gathered, locks changed, and stories aligned." "He died Tuesday evening," Victor said. "What time?" His face hardened. "You were not there, Rachel. That is the answer." There it was, the bait, the old family machine waiting for me to step inside and start thrashing. I buttoned my coat. "You're right," I said. I wasn't. Then I stepped out into the snow. For a minute, I stood under the gray sky and listened to the muffled hymn begin inside. I had imagined seeing Dad one last time. I had imagined placing my hand on the casket and telling him I had tried to understand. Instead, I stood beside a salted walkway holding a funeral program that had removed me from the list of surviving children. It named Victor as Thomas Morgan's beloved son. It named Elaine as his devoted wife. It named step-grandchildren, nephews, a church board, and a Labrador retriever named Scout, who had been dead since 2019. It did not name me. That was the first document. Not the most important one. Not the one that would break everything open. But the first, and I kept it. I folded it carefully, slid it into my coat pocket, and walked toward my car. That was when a voice called my name. Rachel. An old man stood near the cemetery gate beneath a black umbrella. Alden Pierce had been my father's attorney for as long as I could remember. He wore a charcoal overcoat and leather gloves, and his silver hair was combed back with the discipline of another century. "I was hoping you would come," he said. "That makes one of us." His mouth tightened, not quite a smile. "Your father left instructions for me, separate from the estate documents." He reached inside his coat and removed a cream envelope sealed with dark blue wax. My name was written across the front in my father's handwriting. Rachel Ann Morgan. Not Rachel. Not Rach, the way he used to write on birthday cards. My full name, careful and formal, like an apology afraid to touch me. "I was instructed to give this to you after the service," Mr. Pierce said. "But under the circumstances, I believe now is more appropriate." I did not take it immediately. There are envelopes that feel heavier than paper should feel. "What is it?" I asked. "A letter, a key, and a reference to a file." "What file?" He looked toward the church, then back at me. "The blue folder." The words meant nothing to me. Then he added quietly, "Your father said if Victor tried to take the house, you would know what to do with it." Inside the church, everyone kept singing. Outside, the snow fell silently between me and the man holding my father's last secret. I took the envelope. I did not open it in the church parking lot. I drove to the public overlook above Briar Lake, where bare maple trees leaned over the guardrail and the water lay gray beneath the winter sky. I sat in my car with the heater running and the envelope on the passenger seat. For 10 minutes, I did nothing. Finally, I broke the wax seal. Inside were 3 things: a letter, a small brass key taped to an index card, and a photograph of my mother standing on the porch of the lake house in a yellow sweater, laughing at something outside the frame. I was 5 years old on the steps, a popsicle melting down my wrist. Victor sat beside me, holding up 2 fingers behind my head. On the back, Dad had written, "Before we learned how to lose each other." The letter was 4 pages. Rachel, if Alden is giving you this, then I am gone, and I was not brave enough to repair what I broke while I still had breath to do it. You deserved a better father than the one I became after your mother died. Your brother has told many lies, but the first useful lie was mine. I allowed people to believe you left because it was easier than admitting I sent you away. I told myself I was protecting you from the mess inside this family. The truth is uglier. I was protecting myself from choosing between my children in public. Victor has been taking from the company for years. You found the first layer. There were more. Elaine knew. 3 years ago, I changed my will. Victor does not know. Elaine does not know. They believe the lake house and my controlling shares in Morgan Timber will pass to Victor. They will act quickly. They will count on your grief, your isolation, and the story they built around you. Do not argue with them. Find the blue folder. The house is not just a house. Your mother paid for it with money from her parents before we were married. I let people forget that because forgetting benefited me. She left a condition in the transfer documents when she added my name. If Victor tries to sell it, challenge him. If Elaine claims I promised it to her, challenge her. If they say you abandoned me, ask them why they kept every letter you sent. I kept them all. There is a recording in the blue folder. Use it only if they force you. I am sorry I left you with work that belonged to me. Dad. No love. No forgive me, just Dad. As if even at the end, he could not ask for what he had not earned. My phone rang. Victor. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a message appeared. Call me before you do something stupid. I looked at my father's letter, then at the funeral program beside it. My name missing from one, written carefully across the other. Documents tell stories. That morning, mine had begun speaking. Briar Glen First National still had the same brass clock above the teller windows. The manager, Priya Shah, reviewed my identification, the safe deposit card, and the authorization Mr. Pierce had filed years earlier. She led me into the vault room. We opened the box together. Inside was a thick blue folder and 3 bundles of letters tied with cotton string. My letters. Every birthday card, every Christmas note, every careful, humiliating attempt to stay gentle with a father who would not answer me. On top of the first bundle was a sticky note in my father's handwriting. She did not leave. I let them make her disappear. There are forms of grief that do not cry. They become posture. They become breath. They become a woman sitting alone in a bank room, learning she had not been unloved exactly, just unprotected. And sometimes that difference is not enough to comfort you. I opened the blue folder. The first section was labeled Lake House. There was the original purchase agreement, my mother's name only, paid in full from an inheritance account belonging to the Ellis family. There was the later transfer adding my father to the deed. And clipped behind it was a writer I had never seen. If Thomas Morgan remains sole surviving title holder after Margaret Morgan's death, property shall not be sold, transferred, mortgaged, or assigned unless first offered to Rachel Ann Morgan for $1. I read it again. Then again. My mother had protected me when I was too young to know I would need protecting. The second section was labeled Company. My brother did not inherit the company. He inherited an audit. The third section was labeled Victor and Elaine. I did not open it immediately. A person can know a room is burning and still need one breath before touching the door. Then Aunt Lydia texted me. Rachel, sweetheart, I do not know what Alden gave you, but please be careful. Your brother changed the locks at the lake house this morning. I called Mr. Pierce. Victor changed the locks, I said. That was faster than I expected. What's in Dad's desk? A pause. A ledger, he said. What kind of ledger? The kind your father should have shown you 8 years ago. We drove to the lake house with Mr. Pierce following in his sedan, not because I needed a witness emotionally, but because I needed one legally. That is the difference between drama and strategy. Drama wants someone to agree with your pain. Strategy wants someone credible to watch what happens next. The Morgan Lake House sat at the end of a gravel drive, white clapboard, green shutters, wide porch, facing the water. My mother's porch swing was gone. Only 2 hooks remained in the ceiling, dark and empty. There was a realtor's lockbox on the front door. Inside, the house looked staged, counters cleared, flowers in a vase, my mother's dishes removed from the shelves. A folded sign leaned against the hallway wall. Coming soon. Victor had not just changed the locks. He was preparing to sell the house. A locksmith opened the door, signed an affidavit, and replaced the lock. In Dad's study, the desk drawers had been emptied, all except one. The center drawer was locked. The brass key fit. Inside were paper clips, fountain pens, reading glasses, and a shallow wooden tray. I lifted the tray, no false bottom. Then I saw the scratch mark under the desk. Taped beneath the drawer frame was a flat, brown envelope. For the audit my father had written. Inside was the ledger. Black cover, worn corners, pages filled by hand in my father's tight script. Dates, check numbers, vendor names, amounts, notes. In the margins, initials. V.E., sometimes both. There were payments to contractors from the blue folder, but here Dad had added what the official records did not show. No work performed. Invoice approved by Victor. Check requested after call from Elaine. Reimbursed twice. Cash withdrawal same day as Elaine deposit. My father had not just suspected. He had tracked them. Then Victor's SUV pulled into the driveway. He stormed into the living room with snow on his shoulders and rage arranged into concern. You broke into Dad's house, he said. No. I entered a property in which I have a documented legal interest, with counsel present and a locksmith as witness. This is harassment. Then call the police. Elaine inhaled sharply. Victor did not move. That told me more than his shouting could have. Where is Dad's recliner? I asked. We're preparing the house, Victor said. For what? For sale, because unlike you, I am trying to settle things responsibly. You cannot sell it. He laughed too quickly. Dad left me the house. No, I said. He did not. Elaine stepped forward. Rachel, your father made promises to this family. My mother made documents. That stopped her. You abandoned him, Elaine whispered. Then why did he keep my letters? She went pale. Just enough for the truth to show through. I picked up my bag. Victor stepped toward me. Mr. Pierce moved slightly, not in front of me, but into witness position. You walk out with anything from this house, Victor said, and I will report it as theft. I met his eyes. Please do. Snow tapped against the windows. Then my brother said the first fully honest thing I had heard from him in years. You should have stayed gone. I know you think that, I said. And I walked past him with my father's ledger in my bag, my mother's house key in my hand, and Elaine's fear following me all the way to the porch. The first legal notice hit Morgan Timber the next morning. By 8:47, Victor had called me 11 times. By 9:03, Elaine had left a voicemail so sweet it could have preserved fruit. Rachel, sweetheart, emotions are running very high. Your father would be heartbroken to see us fighting over property. Please let us sit down as a family before outsiders get involved. Outsiders. That was what Elaine called lawyers, auditors, judges, and anyone else who might ask for proof. By noon, we had a timeline. 8 years of questionable disbursements. 4 shell vendors. Company card expenses during fake client trips. Payroll advances never repaid. Inventory shrinkage that rose every quarter. Victor managed purchasing. A home renovation invoice for Elaine's sister, coded as warehouse repair. And then on the quietest, ugliest category, checks written from my father's personal account in the last 18 months of his life. Not huge checks, 5,000, 7,000, 12. In the memo line, my father had written Victor loan. Victor had not only taken from the company, he had taken from our father while Dad was sick. That evening, Aunt Lydia asked me to come by alone. Her house was too warm. On the coffee table sat tea, shortbread, and a manila envelope. "Where is the porch swing?" I asked. "In my garage," she said. "Your father asked me to take it 3 months ago." "Why?" "Because Elaine wanted it gone, said it made the porch look dated." Aunt Lydia pushed the envelope toward me. "I should have given you this years ago." "What is it?" "Your mother's letter. My mother had died when I was 14. She left me a letter. She left 2. One for you, one for your father." I opened it with careful hands. "My dearest Rachel, if you are reading this, then I am not there to help you become a woman, and that is the grief I cannot put down. I want you to remember 3 things. First, being difficult is sometimes what people call you when you refuse to disappear. Second, your mind is not cold just because it notices facts. God gave you clear eyes. Use them. Third, the lake house is yours in every way that matters. Your father knows this. If he forgets, remind him. If others deny it, show them the papers. You will be told that keeping peace is love. Sometimes it is, but sometimes peace is only the name people give to a room where the wrong person has been silenced. Do not confuse quiet with safety. Do not confuse quiet with surrender. And if the day comes when someone asks you to give away the last place where you felt loved without conditions, I hope you disappoint them thoroughly. Love, Mom. For the first time since the funeral, I cried. Not loudly, not beautifully. Just enough for the little girl in me to understand that someone had tried to leave a light on. Then Aunt Lydia told me about Claire Bennett, once Claire Whitcomb, Victor's former fiancée and a former accounts payable clerk at Morgan Timber. She had found invoices, too. Victor had destroyed her credibility before she could expose him. "Your brother does not only steal money," Aunt Lydia said. "He steals credibility first." The next morning, Claire met me in a hotel lobby 30 miles from Briar Glen. She placed a folder and a small external drive on the table. "Victor and I were engaged for 9 months," she said. "I was 23, ordinary stupid, and flattered that the owner's son thought I was special." She had kept emails, scans, and one audio file from the night Victor made her resign. His younger voice on the recording was calm and cruel. "You're confused, Claire," he said, "and confusion can look a lot like theft when an auditor reads it cold." Claire's voice shook. "I did not approve these." "No," Victor said, "but your login did." Then a soft laugh. "Be careful. That sounds paranoid." I stopped the audio there. Claire had survived him. Then she had built a career in compliance, making sure people like Victor had a harder time hiding behind paperwork. By the next day, our attorneys filed to confirm the lake house restriction, demand company records, and suspend Victor's authority pending review. Victor demanded private mediation. Of course he did. He offered not to fight me on the lake house if I returned the ledger, declined the trustee role, withdrew the audit, and signed a mutual non-disparagement agreement. The family discount again, peace in exchange for silence, wrapped in practical language. I said no. At mediation, Victor spoke about legacy. Elaine cried at the right time. Their attorney talked about healing. When it was my turn, I placed 3 folders on the table. The white folder held the funeral program with my name removed. The blue folder held my mother's lake house rider. The black folder held my father's ledger. By the end of that day, the settlement collapsed. Victor refused to resign, refused to return funds, refused to acknowledge the lake house rider, and refused everything except confidentiality. That suited me. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. During those 2 weeks, we worked. We subpoenaed records, we interviewed Claire, we secured the lake house. I retrieved my mother's porch swing from Aunt Lydia's garage and had it rehung on the porch. When the swing went back up, the house seemed to exhale. The night before court, I slept at the lake house with my mother's letter and my father's letter on the kitchen table. 2 dead people, finally in conversation. The hearing began at 10 a.m. on a Friday. The probate courtroom was smaller than I expected. Oak benches, beige walls, a flag in the corner, winter light on a floor buffed to a dull shine. No grand drama, just a public room where private lies came to be measured. Victor's attorney painted me as opportunistic, estranged, resentful. He said my father had been confused. He said the family needed healing, not audits. Healing. People use that word strangely when they mean obedience. Mara, my attorney, stood and said, "Your Honor, this matter is not complicated because the family is emotional. It is complicated because the documents are inconvenient." Then she walked the court through them. The lake house rider, the revised estate plan, the trustee appointment, the preservation notice, the ledger, the bank records, Claire's warning, the realtor lockbox, the changed locks, the missing personal property, the kept letters. One by one, the story left the fog and became paper. Claire testified after lunch. Victor would not look at her. She described the early invoices, the login misuse, the threat, the way her reputation had been dismantled before she could defend herself. She did not dramatize it. She had the calm of a woman who had spent years separating pain from proof. Victor's attorney suggested she was bitter. Claire looked at him. "I was bitter at 23, she said. "I am documented at 40. Then I testified. I admitted the estrangement before anyone could weaponize it. I told the truth plainly because the truth had spent too many years being treated like an accusation." Victor's attorney asked if I hated my brother. "No." "Do you resent him?" "Yes." "Do you want to punish him?" "I want the records reviewed and the property protected." That was not my question. It is my answer. Finally, Victor testified. He was good. Charming, wounded, careful. He spoke about responsibility, grief, my father's confusion, Elaine's devotion. For a while, I could feel the room leaning toward him. That was his gift. He could make theft sound like loneliness. Then Mara asked about the lockbox. "Who authorized the realtor's lockbox at the lake house?" "I was preparing to evaluate options," Victor said. "Were you aware of the lake house rider?" "No." "Were you aware your father had changed his will?"
"No." Mara lifted a document. "Then why did you call Elaine at 8:46 p.m. Monday night and say, 'He changed it, she gets the house'?" Victor went still. Elaine closed her eyes.
The courtroom became very quiet. "That statement appears in a voicemail transcription from your stepmother's phone backup," Mara said. "Would you like to revise your answer?" Victor looked at Elaine. Elaine did not look back. "I was upset," he said. "That was not the question." "No," he said. "I was not unaware." Then Mara asked him about the payments. "You described these as loans. Where are the loan agreements?" "They were informal." "Where are the repayment schedules?" "My father and I had an understanding." "Where are the repayments?" Victor had no answer. The judge took 47 minutes to rule. Those minutes felt longer than the 8 years before them. When we returned, she read the decision in a level voice. The lake house rider was valid. The attempted sale was improper. The title transfer to me for $1 would proceed. My appointment as trustee of the voting shares was confirmed. Victor was suspended from financial authority at Morgan Timber pending independent audit. Elaine was barred from removing, altering, or disposing of property from the lake house or company records. A forensic review was ordered. The matter was referred to the county prosecutor for review. Then the judge looked at me. Miss Morgan, this court is not in the business of repairing families. It is in the business of recognizing lawful documents. But sometimes documents preserve what people failed to protect. Your mother's intent was unusually clear. The gavel came down. One clean sound. Not dramatic. Final enough. 6 months have passed. Here is the accounting, because my father taught me one useful thing and left me to apply it everywhere. Victor did not go to prison. Not yet. The audit is still moving through the slow machinery of consequences. He resigned from Morgan Timber 3 weeks after the hearing, not because he wanted peace, but because the independent review made staying more expensive than leaving. Elaine moved into a condo near her daughter in Cincinnati. Before she left, she sent me 1 box of my mother's dishes from the lake house. No note. 2 plates were cracked. I kept them anyway. Some things survive badly and still belong home. Morgan Timber is smaller now. Cleaner. The first month, 3 employees quit because Victor had hired loyalty the way other men hire contractors. The second month, 2 old customers came back. The third month, I promoted a payroll clerk who had been quietly keeping backup spreadsheets for years because, in her words, men who say do not worry about it are usually the reason to worry. As for the lake house, I bought it for $1 on a rainy Tuesday morning. The clerk at the recorder's office slid the stamped document back to me through the window, and just like that, my mother's last act of protection became public record. I drove straight there afterward. The porch swing moved gently in the rain. I sat on it with both letters in my lap and let the house be what it had always been trying to be. Not an inheritance, a witness, a place where my mother's love had outlived everyone's attempt to rename it. I wish I could tell you Victor apologized. He did not. I wish I could tell you Elaine admitted what she had done. She did not. I wish I could tell you the town understood everything once the documents came out. It did not. But my name is back where it belongs. On the deed. In the company records. In my father's corrected obituary, which now reads, Thomas Morgan is survived by his daughter, Rachel Ann Morgan, and his son, Victor Morgan. Only 1 line. But sometimes a line is a door reopening. The lake house is not fully restored. The kitchen still needs work. There are pale squares on the walls where family photographs used to hang. In the downstairs hall, there is a box of letters I have not finished reading, because grief, like accounting, should be done carefully if you want the final balance to mean anything. But the porch swing is back. My mother's dishes are on the shelves, and on quiet evenings, when the lake turns silver and the house settles around me, I can almost believe the lost years are not returned but witnessed. Counted, entered into the record. That is not the same as healing. It is where healing can begin. I used to think being erased meant you had to fight your way back with noise. I thought if I could just make everyone hear me, the truth would finally become real. Now I know better. The truth was real the entire time. It was in the rider my mother signed. It was in the letters my father kept. It was in Claire's old files, Aunt Lydia's guilty silence, the porch swing hidden in a garage, the ledger taped under a desk by a man who found courage late, but not never. And it was in me, even when a church full of people watched my brother remove me from my father's funeral and decided my silence meant he was right. Quiet is not agreement. Quiet is not weakness. Quiet is not peace. Sometimes quiet is a woman folding a funeral program into her coat pocket because she knows the first document is never the last. Sometimes quiet is a lawyer under a black umbrella holding a sealed envelope. Sometimes quiet is a mother, years before dying, writing 1 sentence into a deed because she understands that love without paperwork can be stolen by people who speak confidently enough. And sometimes, quiet is the sound of a gavel, a porch swing, a pencil on paper, a name being put back where it belongs. That is my story. My brother kicked me out of my father's funeral. Then the lawyer handed me his last letter. And by the time Victor understood what my father had left behind, every lie he built around me had already started telling the truth. If someone in your family has made you feel difficult for noticing what hurts, remember this: being erased does not mean you vanished. It means someone was afraid of what would happen if the record stayed complete. Keep your letters, keep your documents, keep your clear eyes, and never give away the last place where you were loved without conditions.